The roar of the motorcycles was the first sound that made Jacob Jace Carter feel alive again. After 2 deployments and a discharge that left him stranded in civilian life, Jace had spent months drifting. His nights were spent drowning in cheap whiskey, his days consumed by a gnawing emptiness he couldn't shake. The brotherhood he'd once relied on in the military was gone, and he felt like a ghost in his own world. Then he met the Black Talons. The gang rolled into the parking lot of a bar one night, their presence impossible to ignore. Leather vests, roaring Harleys, and an air of reckless confidence that Jace found intoxicating. He struck up a conversation with their leader, a towering man named Bear, and within weeks, they offered him a spot in the crew. Jace thought he'd found his new family. The first few months were everything he'd hoped for. The gang operated on loyalty, their motto drilled into him: once a Talon, always a Talon. They rode together, partied together, and had each other's backs. For the first time since leaving the service, Jace felt like he belonged. But cracks began to show. It started small, delivering packages to remote locations, no questions asked. Bear assured him it was harmless, just part of keeping the club afloat. But the packages came with whispered warnings. Don't peek inside. Then came the fights. At first, it was about defending their turf, brawls that felt like the camaraderie of war. But soon, Jace realized they weren't just defending, they were attacking, extorting local businesses, torching rivals' property, leaving chaos in their wake. Jace told himself it was part of the brotherhood, that he owed them his loyalty. But deep down, he knew he was slipping further into a world he couldn't control. One night, everything changed. Bear handed Jace a gun, his expression cold. "We've got a problem," Bear said, nodding toward a man tied to a chair in the gang's clubhouse. The man was bloodied, barely conscious. "This guy's been feeding info to the cops." Jace stared at the man, his stomach twisting. "You want me to—" Bear clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder. "This is how we know you're one of us? No loose ends?" Jace's hands trembled as he held the weapon. The room felt suffocating, the weight of the gang's eyes pressing down on him. "I can't do this," Jace said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Bear's expression darkened. "You either pull the trigger or you're next." Jace left that night, his mind racing. He knew the gang wouldn't let him walk away, but he couldn't keep going down this path. He spent the next week trying to disappear, selling his bike, ditching his phone, and moving into a cheap motel miles away. But the Black Talons had a long reach. The knock came late at night. Jace froze, staring at the door. He knew who it was before he opened it. Bear and 2 others stood in the hallway, their faces shadowed in the dim light. "Brother," Bear said, his voice dripping with venom. "You didn't think you could just leave, did you?" Before Jace could respond, they dragged him outside, shoving him into the back of a van. The desert was silent, the stars casting a cold light over the barren landscape. Jace was on his knees, the barrel of a gun pressed against the back of his head. "Tell us!" Bear snarled. "Did you talk to the cops?" "I didn't," Jace said, his voice breaking. "I swear." But Bear didn't care. "This isn't about what you did. It's about what you didn't do. You broke the code, brother." Jace's mind raced with memories of the camaraderie he thought he'd found, the brotherhood he believed in. It had all been a lie. A sharp crack echoed through the desert, and then nothing. A hiker found Jace's body weeks later, buried in a shallow grave. His military dog tags were still around his neck, a cruel reminder of the honor he'd once lived by. The authorities ruled it a gang-related killing, but no arrests were ever made. The Black Talons carried on, their reign of terror unchallenged, their betrayal of Jace swept under the rug. No one came to claim his body. No one mourned him. He was just another forgotten soldier, swallowed by a world that promised him belonging and gave him only betrayal. The end. Let me know your thoughts.